The real reason most people never move to France: if you spend enough time online, you'll eventually come across people saying they want to move to France. They dream about a slower life, walkable towns, healthcare, fresh food, a different pace of living. And honestly, I understand it. For many people, France represents something deeper than just another country. It represents space to breathe again. But here's the strange thing. Most people who dream about moving to France never actually do it. And after years of living here and helping people understand the visa process, I don't think the biggest obstacle is paperwork. I don't think it's money either. Most of the time, the real obstacle is psychological. People wait for the perfect moment. They wait until they feel fully confident, fully prepared, financially perfect, emotionally certain. But international moves almost never work like that. There is no moment where all fear disappears. There is no magical point where you suddenly feel completely ready to leave behind familiarity and build a life somewhere else. And I think that's important to say honestly. Because social media often makes international moves look simple. Beautiful cafes, markets, French villages, sunsets, wine. But behind every successful move abroad is usually somebody who had moments of doubt, moments of uncertainty, moments where they wondered if they were making a mistake. The difference is they kept moving forward anyway. Now that doesn't mean you should make reckless decisions. Moving to France absolutely requires planning. You need to think carefully about your visa, your finances, healthcare, housing, and what your long-term life might realistically look like here. But one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is trying to solve their entire future all at once. They research taxes, banking, schools, cars, healthcare, renting, property, language learning, social security, and residency rules, all at the same time. And eventually the whole thing starts feeling impossible. So let me simplify this. If you're serious about moving to France, start with one question. What is your realistic visa pathway? Not your dream outcome. Not your perfect future life. Your realistic next step. Because once you understand your visa route, everything else becomes much easier to organize around it. For some people, that might be retirement. For others, remote work, self-employment, study, research, or employment with a French company. But clarity creates momentum. And momentum is what helps people actually make the move. Another thing I think people underestimate is the emotional side of relocation. Moving abroad sounds exciting, and it is, but it can also feel lonely at times. You're learning systems that are unfamiliar. Speaking another language. Making mistakes. Feeling out of place. That experience is completely normal. And honestly, I think people adapt better when they expect some discomfort instead of expecting perfection immediately. Because France is not a fantasy. It's a real country with real bureaucracy, real frustrations, and real cultural differences. But for many people, the trade-off is still deeply worth it. Especially if they're looking for more balance, slower living, better access to healthcare, walkable towns, better food culture, or simply a different rhythm of life. I also think people sometimes underestimate how much their life can change over 5 or 10 years. You don't need to have every answer today. You don't need fluent French tomorrow. You don't need to know exactly where you'll live. You simply need to start preparing earlier than most people do. Because the people who successfully move abroad are rarely the people who felt the most fearless. They're usually the people who kept preparing consistently over time. Small steps matter more than dramatic decisions. Learning French for 20 minutes a day matters. Saving gradually matters. Researching visa options carefully matters. Understanding realistic timelines matters. And perhaps most importantly, being honest about what kind of life you actually want matters. Because moving to France won't automatically fix every problem in your life. No country can do that. But if you're moving toward a lifestyle that genuinely aligns with your values, it can absolutely become one of the best decisions you ever make. And I think that's the key difference. The people who do best here are usually moving toward something, not simply trying to escape something. So if France is something you're seriously considering, don't let the size of the process overwhelm you. You do not need to solve the next 10 years today. You only need to understand the next step. And from there, the path becomes much clearer.